And somehow, over the last 30 years, the corporate leadership of America has gotten so addicted to their stock price by the hour, by the day, by the week, that they're willing to support anything that might keep the game going and help the system in the short run avoid a hit to their stock price and to the value of their options. That's the real problem today. And as a result, there is no real political doctrine, ideology left in the corporate community. They are simply pragmatists who will take anything they can find and run with it.
So this is what you mean when you say free markets are not free. They've been bought and paid for by large financial institutions.
Right. I don't think it's entirely a corruption of human nature. People have always been inconsistent and greedy. But I think it's been the evolution of the political culture in which there have been so many bailouts, there has been so much abuse and misuse of government power for private ends and private gains, that now we have an entitled class in this country that is far worse than, remember the welfare queens that Ronald Reagan used to talk about? We now have an entitled class of Wall Street financiers and of corporate CEOs who believe the government is there to do what is ever necessary if it involves tax relief, tax incentives, tax cuts, loan guarantees, Federal Reserve, market intervention and stabilization, whatever it takes in order to keep the game going and their stock price moving upward. That's where they are.
You are disaffected with the party of your youth, the Republican Party, because it's become dogmatic on so many of these issues and no longer listens to evidence and facts. I'm disaffected with the party of my youth because that Democratic Party served the interest of the working people of this country, like Ruby and Henry Moyers. And so many people feel the same way. How do we overcome this pessimism about the American future? The Wall Street Journal had a headline on an op-ed piece that said, "The End of American Optimism." A recent survey said only 15% of the people were satisfied about the direction of the American people. I mean, this is a serious situation, is it not?
I think it is, but we also have to recognize the pessimism that the public reflects in the surveys and polls is warranted. In other words, the public isn't being unduly pessimistic. It's not been overcome with some kind of false wave of emotion. No, I think the American public sees very clearly the current system isn't working, that the Federal Reserve is basically working on behalf of Wall Street, not Main Street, that Congress is owned lock, stock, and barrel by one after another special interest. And they logically say, how can we expect anything good to come out of this kind of process that seems to be getting worse? So how do we turn that around? I think it's going to take, unfortunately, a real crisis before maybe the decks can be cleared.
What would that look like?
It will take something even more traumatic than we had in September 2008.
But on the basis of the record, the lessons of the past, the experience you have just recounted and are writing about, do you see any early signs that we might turn the ship from the iceberg?
No, I think we've learned no lessons. We really have not restructured our financial system. The big banks that existed then that were too big to fail are even bigger now. The top 6 banks then had $7 trillion of assets. Now they have $9 or $10 trillion. Rather than go to the fundamentals, which have been totally neglected, we've simply kind of papered over the current system and continued the game of having the Federal Reserve and the Treasury, if necessary, prop up all of this leverage and speculation, which isn't helping the economy. And when we talk about zero interest rates, that's not helping Main Street. Our problem in this economy is not our interest rates are too high. The zero interest rates are just more fuel for leverage speculation, for what's called the carry trade. And that is causing windfall benefits to a few, but it's leaving the fundamental problems of our economy in worse shape than they've ever been.
No one I know has a better understanding of the seesaw tension in our history between democracy and capitalism. Capitalism, accumulate wealth and make it available. Democracy be a brake, B-R-A-K-E, on the unbridled greed of capitalists. It seems to me that democracy is lost and that capitalism is triumphant. Crony capitalism in this
And
case.
I think it's important to put the word crony capitalism on there, because free market capitalism is a different thing. True free market capitalists never go to Washington with their hand out. True free market capitalists running a bank do not expect that every time they make a foolish mistake or they get themselves too leveraged or they end up with too many risky assets that don't work out, they don't expect to go to the Federal Reserve and get some cheap or free money and go on as before. They expect consequences, maybe even failure of their firm, certainly loss of their bonuses, maybe loss of their jobs. So we don't have free market capitalism left in this country anymore. We have everyone believing that if they can hire the right lobbyists, raise enough political action committee money, spend enough time prowling the halls of the Senate and the House and the office buildings arguing for their parochial narrow interest, that's, that is the way things will work out. And that's crony capitalism. It's very dangerous, and it seems to be becoming more embedded in our system.
So many people say we've got to get money out of politics, or as you said, money dominates government today.
Well, look, I think the financial industry over the 2 or 3 year run up to 210 spent something like $600 million. Just the financial industry, the banks, the Wall Street houses and some hedge funds and others, insurance companies, $600 million in campaign contributions or lobbying. That is so disproportionate because the average American today is struggling to make ends meet, probably working extra hours in order just to keep up with the cost of living, which is being driven up, unfortunately, by the Fed. They don't have time to weigh into the political equation against the daily, hourly lobbying and pressuring and influencing of the process. So it's asymmetrical. And how do we solve that? I think we can only solve it by, and it'll take a constitutional amendment, so I don't say this lightly, but I think we have to eliminate all contributions above $100 and get corporations out of politics entirely. Ban corporations from campaign contributions or attempting to influence elections. Now, I know that runs into current free speech, so the only way around it is a constitutional amendment to cleanse our political system on a one-time basis from this enormously corrupting influence that is built up. And I think nothing is really going to change until we get money out of politics and do some radical things to change the way elections are financed and the way the process is influenced by organized money. If we don't address that, then crony capitalism is here for the duration.
David Stockman, thank you very much for sharing this time with us.
Great.